Tim Alston. Welcome to the Tim Alston Show. It is in this show that we do several things, things that will be of interest to you. Number one is that we equip, educate, and empower emerging leaders with God thought leadership. And what we also do is I forgot just that quickly. Oh, we present current events and newsmakers in the light of biblical best practices. And this show is no different today. Um, let me take you back, but more importantly, let me take you forward to where we're heading. Okay? Fair enough? Okay. If you were like me, growing up as a child, you watched the annual Macy's Day Thanksgiving Day parade on TV. It was one of the nation's oldest annual Thanksgiving Day parades. And as you watch this event, and I watch it year after year, looking at all the pretty floats and the balloons and everything else, I began to remember, I remember hearing at some point that the planning for this Macy's Day parade, the planning for it actually was a year-long process. And when I say it was a year-long process, what I mean is the fact that from according to the records, almost immediately after that parade that year, in a matter of days, it's kind of like the next week, they began planning for that next Macy's Thanksgiving Day parade, planning for the floats, planning for the construction, planning for the different partnerships that would work with it, planning for everything because it was that massive an undertaking. One of the oldest Thanksgiving Day parades in the nation. Well, in the same regard, and likewise in the same manner, I want you and me to begin the process of planning for next year's Mother's Day, 2026. That's right. That's right. Yes, I know that 2025 Mother's Day is past. That weekend is past. And hopefully you had a good, enjoyable time with it. I did too. I took care of my mother, who is my wife. My mother passed away a year and a half ago, so my wife becomes my mother of record. But what I want us to do is step beyond the traditional cards for now, the flowers for now, as well as the Sunday brunches. And I want us to project down the road, just like those who are planning the Macy's parade, project down the road, and we want to look at next year's event. We want to look down the road because we want to look at mothers in a very, very different light. What we want to do is we want them to be positioned with us and to be seen as not simply the mothers that they've always been, and we love them, but we want them to be seen as the emerging leaders that they are, the emerging leaders that they are. And so I've entitled this episode today, Mother's Day, and what is the Mother's Day strategy for 2026? I can remember I was a 12-year-old kid, 12-year-old boy, and my mother, who was the school principal and later my teacher in 1967 when I was in seventh grade, had me to memorize a poem. I didn't memorize the poem. It was not assigned to me for a grade on a transcript, on a report card, as we called it then, but it was assigned to me for life. I mean, I still remember that poem today. And I don't think I'll ever forget that poem. Now there's even 6 decades later, and I say it to you now from memory. The woman was old and ragged and gray, and bent with the chill of a winter's day. The street was wet with recent snow, and the women's steps were aged and slow. She stopped at the crossing and waited long, alone, uncared for, amid the throng of human beings who passed her by. None heeded the glance of her anxious eye. None offered a helping hand to her, so meek, so timid, afraid to stir, lest the carriage's wheels, or the horse's feet, should crowd her down on the slippery street. Down the street with laughter and shout, joy in the freedom of schools let out, came the boys like a flock of sheep, hailing the snow piled white and deep. But none offered a helping hand to her, so meek, so timid, afraid to stir lest the carriage's wheels or the horse's feet should crowd her down on the slippery street. And then came one of that merry troop, the happiest lad in all the group. He paused beside her and whispered low, "I'll help you across if you wish to go." Her aged hand on his strong young arm she placed without hurt or harm. He guided those trembling feet along and glad that his own were firm and strong. And then back again to his gang he went, his young heart happy and so content. She's somebody's mother, boys, you know, even if she's aged and poor and slow. And I hope some fellow will lend a hand to help my mother, you understand, if ever she's poor and old and gray, and her own dear boy is far away. And somebody's mother bowed low her head in her home that night, and the prayer she said was, "God, be kind to that noble boy, for he's somebody's son and pride and joy." I think I shall never forget that poem because what it does, it points me to a lifetime of not just heroes, but now looking at them as sheroes in my life, looking at those people that really helped to shape me. In so many instances, we don't look at or we undervalue the role of mothers in our society, whether we're talking about married mothers, whether we're talking about biological mothers, whether we're talking about single mothers, or whether we're talking about spiritual mothers. We have a tendency, well, it is customary for us to think about leaders only in suits and in corner offices. But the biggest and most transformational leaders in our life are those hovering over a stove or in the carpool line or also at a child's bedside. I know that feeling all too intimately because I had the privilege of having that kind of a figure in my life. And what we have to begin to understand is the fact that our mothers don't just raise children, they raise civilization. And what they do is so absolutely important to us that they are foundational and we need to start recognizing them for that. There is research out there that says that what women bring into the marketplace is a level of humility and competence that is not often regarded or looked at correctly. In fact, there was a recent article in the Harvard Business Review by the author was Tomas Chamorro Premuzic, and he was saying the fact that women in the marketplace are what kind of holds together and stabilizes that marketplace. And so what we don't think about, and I'd like for us to think about today, starting, is to think about the numbers. Look at the numbers game with respect to mothers. Let's talk a little bit about not the economy, but the she economy and the force that she plays in the marketplace. For example, according to the research, women decide and influence up to 85% of the consumer spending in the United States. Also, women make more than 30 decisions every hour in terms of their space, whether it's corporate space or boardroom space or home space. Women become entrepreneurs at twice the rate as do men, and black women are the fastest growing demographic of entrepreneurs in our society. And yet, women only get about 1% of venture capital funding. That's not just a gap. That's a leadership injustice. It needs to be corrected. The women in our society hold much of what we do in sway. And it's important that we begin to honor them. So I would say to you today in my short message, we need to take the time to not wait until May to start getting ready to think about honoring our women. Let's, here's a radical idea. Let's begin to make every day and every week Mother's Weekend in the smallest of ways. Look at the single mother narrative that we don't talk about very much. We don't address it very much. She is the CEO of that home. And even though the married mother gets a lot of cultural prestige, that mother is often marginalized in our society, but yet she is that, for example, that operations manager, she's that faith leader, she's that disciplinarian, and she is the encourager in those families. She is the one who nurtures, and she is growing at a larger number in our society than are the traditionally married women. So we need to pay attention to that. We need to honor them in what they do. We need to listen to them. We often don't listen to them. We take them for granted many times. I've been guilty of that. And as I put together this presentation for this, I began to ask myself, am I one of those who is guilty of those slights or injustices against women? Unfortunately, unfortunately, I've been it far more times than I care to admit it. And I'm working hard to correct those injustices in me that I would meet upon other and women. And so my word to all of us out here, particularly to the men, but also to the women too, let's celebrate. Let's celebrate our women more. And I don't mean just in some cosmetic way as cards and flowers do, and there's nothing wrong with that. I, for example, in my own life, I will get my wife flowers once or twice a month just because. And she'll say, well, what's this for? And I say, it's just because. Just because. I could wait till her birthday. I could wait till Christmas. I could wait till Mother's Day. But no, she is special to me every day. She anchors me. She balances me out. She gives me counsel that I need, sometimes that I don't necessarily want, but that I need. And I appreciate that. And she prays for me and she prays with me and she gives me good sound counsel. Even though she's not an author, she gives me advice and counsel about the books that I'm writing. And had you thought about this? Had you thought about that? And I've got to say to her, thank you. There was a research study I read many, many years ago. I found very interesting. It was reported in my men's devotional Bible. It said there are five things, the five most difficult statements for a man to make. Let me see if I can remember and get it right. I don't know. I was wrong. I am sorry. I need help. I am afraid. Those are the five most difficult things for a man to say based upon the research. If and when, if and when we men learn to say those things, think things would go much smoother in our households. We would show a lot more vulnerability, which is necessary sometimes, very necessary. Um, it would build a bridge to our wives, our mothers, our children, if we would fess up that we don't know it all, we don't have it all, and we would open them up to more and more of what we need. Most of the answers that we need, they tend to have, or they will find them for you because women don't know how to take no for an answer. And I appreciate that about him. I appreciate that about my wife. I appreciate that about my young daughter, who is a college student now. I've watched her, the tenacity with which she will go at things. There is so much we can learn, brothers, from women. Their temperament, their attitudes, their sense of humility. We could use that. We need that. It will make them better, make us better, make our courtrooms better, our boardrooms better, make our workplaces better, and will make them better. So let's now begin. Let's now begin to honor, as the poem says, somebody's mother. Begin to honor her now. She will grow, we will grow, and all of us will grow. in that process. And that will be one of the finest lessons of leadership that we could ever learn and practice. Thanks for listening. I have a special announcement for you. I meant to mention it earlier, but I'll mention it to you now. I have enjoyed the feedback that I've gotten from you all. I've enjoyed the experience and the exposure that I'm getting from you all in terms um, of doing this podcast, these live streams. I've been doing them twice a week on Mondays and Thursdays, as you know. But the God has impressed me that there are current events, issues that are happening every day, every hour, to be real precise about it. And there's a word from the Lord, and I don't know, I have not, in my research, come up with anybody else that is presenting it this way, presenting current events and newsmakers in the light of best practices for the Bible. So I prayed about it long, did a little fasting on it, discussed it with my wife, and I decided that starting tomorrow, Tuesday, which will be the 13th of May, that I will begin doing daily, daily podcast here, same time, same channel. No, not the same time. I'm going to move it up to 4 o'clock because I feel that at 4 o'clock, it will be able, I'm at 4 o'clock Eastern, Central time, that it will come at a time when some of you are either wrapping up from work or heading home, or that you're at home preparing the meal for yourself or for your families. And therefore you may be more attuned or more at ease with hearing this message that is both corporate and Christian. So it'll be the Tim Alston Show, and it will begin on tomorrow, weekdays, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And it will be at roughly 4 to 4:15. I try to make it a 15 to 20-minute message, ideally 15 minutes, and discussing the same issues. But I'm also going to be taking a deeper dive into the issue of leadership. I've got some research that I've done, some personal research that I've done, and some academic or business journal research I've done that I want to share with you about the main problems with respect to leadership. And following the Bible example, the biblical example, the role model of Moses with the children of Israel in the wilderness, when God rained down manna from heaven on them in the book of Exodus, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, on the sixth day, which is Friday, in honor of the Sabbath, the seventh day, that day of rest, he twice as much manna to them to carry them through. In that model, my plan is to give you twice as much manna as God is giving me on Friday. So I'm probably looking at a 25 to 30 minute segment for the show. Let me hear back from you. Contact me on Facebook. Contact me on my Facebook page. You can contact me directly by email at info@timalston.com. info@tim.com, and let me get your feedback. I enjoy sharing with you what God has shared with me, and it will burn me up inside if I don't get a chance to share it with you as he shares it with me. So thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. This has been the Tim Alston Show. Again, I'm Tim Alston. And if what I'm saying to you has been encouraging, has been inspiring, has been eye-opening, share it with a friend. And like it, share it, and subscribe. And I'll look for you not on Thursday, but on tomorrow, Tuesday, at approximately 4 p.m. Central Standard Time for the Tim Commandments of Leadership. Hey, thanks again. Thanks for watching with me. I had some technical difficulties, but I'm learning the ropes. I'm what you call E-tarded. And I leave you with the words of the American Episcopal clergyman, Philip Brooks. Not Albert Brooks, as I said the last time. I think he's a comedian. But Philip Brooks, who said, don't ask to be have an easier life. Ask to be a stronger person. Don't ask for a task equal to your power, but ask for power equal to your task. And when you do the work will not be the miracle. You will be that miracle. Thanks for listening. God bless you. I'll look for you tomorrow. Tomorrow, Tuesday, the 13th, 4 p.m. Central Standard Time on YouTube, Facebook, and LinkedIn. Thank you so much. See you later. And I can't resist saying this. Go Boston Celtics.